Welcome to Empathy Stories, where we bring you tales of resilience, transformation, and the power of human connection. Today's story follows an overlooked assistant who defies expectations at a business dinner, sparking a journey of redemption and leadership. Get ready for a powerful lesson in courage, growth, and second chances. Chicago's evening skyline glowed as the city's wealthy and powerful gathered at the prestigious Drake's restaurant, a beacon of sophistication. It was the kind of place where deals worth millions were sealed over a single glass of wine, and reputations were made or broken. For Lauren Mitchell, a dedicated assistant with quiet resilience, stepping into such a space was both daunting and thrilling. Lauren had worked for Jack Bennett, a prominent entrepreneur, for nearly 3 years. Though brilliant, Jack was a man who wore his ambition like armor, often aloof and dismissive of those he deemed unimportant. Lauren had grown used to his curt commands and long silences, but his latest request had taken her by surprise. Earlier that day, Jack had leaned against his desk in their sleek downtown office and, without preamble, told her she would accompany him to a critical investor dinner. "This isn't a request," he said, not even looking up from his phone. "Just show up, stay quiet, and don't draw attention to yourself. I need someone there who won't complicate things." The words had stung, though Lauren refused to let it show. She had learned early in her career to mask her emotions. But Jack's tone made her feel like nothing more than a piece of office furniture. Still, she saw this as an opportunity, a chance to observe, to learn, and perhaps prove herself in ways that went beyond filing reports and managing schedules. By the time she arrived at Drake's that evening, wearing a simple yet elegant navy dress, her nerves were tightly wound. Jack stood near the entrance, checking his watch impatiently. He barely acknowledged her presence before muttering, "Let's go," and leading her into the dining area. The restaurant's interior was a symphony of elegance. Crystal chandeliers cast soft light over polished mahogany tables, while the low hum of conversation mingled with the faint strains of live piano music. Lauren could feel the eyes of the room on them, especially on her. She wasn't oblivious to the scrutiny, the way people sized her up with quick glances that carried unspoken judgments. To them, she was an anomaly, a presence that didn't quite belong in this world of tailored suits and designer handbags. Jack introduced her to the investors with a dismissive wave. "This is Lauren. She's with me tonight," he said, his tone making it clear that she was of no importance. He didn't even bother to mention her last name. Lauren swallowed her frustration and forced a polite smile, determined not to let the slight derail her focus. The investors were a formidable group, powerful men with sharp eyes and sharper tongues. Mr. Taylor, a tall man with an air of authority, seemed to lead the group. His gaze lingered on Lauren for a moment, curious but skeptical. The others exchanged looks, their expressions laced with silent judgment, as if questioning why Jack had brought someone so seemingly unremarkable. The dinner began with the kind of conversation Lauren had expected: discussions about profit margins, market strategies, and expansion plans. She stayed silent, as instructed, but listened intently, absorbing every word. She noticed how Jack carried himself, confident, almost arrogant, as he outlined his vision for the company. But beneath his polished exterior, Lauren could detect a hint of unease, a subtle crack in his otherwise impenetrable facade. Then, unexpectedly, Mr. Taylor turned to her. "So, Lauren," he said, his tone polite but patronizing, "how do you feel about attending a business dinner like this?" The question hung in the air, drawing the attention of everyone at the table. Lauren could feel Jack's eyes on her, sharp and warning. He clearly expected her to deflect with a meaningless pleasantry. But something inside her shifted. She wasn't just a silent observer, and she refused to let herself be treated as one. "It's fascinating," Lauren replied evenly, meeting Mr. Taylor's gaze without hesitation. "The numbers and projections are important, of course, but I believe understanding the people behind them is just as crucial. Businesses succeed or fail based on their ability to connect with those they serve and those they employ." The table fell silent. Lauren felt her pulse quicken, but maintained her composure. Mr. Taylor tilted his head. Intrigued. An interesting perspective, he said, his tone lighter now. The other investors nodded thoughtfully, and Lauren felt a surge of confidence. Jack, however, was visibly displeased. His jaw tightened, and his hand clenched around his wine glass. He had brought Lauren here to be invisible, and she was doing exactly the opposite. As the conversation continued, Mr. Taylor directed more questions toward her, seemingly impressed by her thoughtful and articulate responses. Lauren spoke carefully, ensuring she stayed respectful yet firm in her opinions. When the topic of corporate social responsibility arose, Mr. Taylor turned to Jack. "Does your company have any initiatives in this area?" he asked, his tone probing. Jack hesitated, clearly caught off guard. Social responsibility wasn't something he prioritized, and it showed. Before he could form a vague response, Lauren spoke up. "I think it's essential for successful companies to give back to their communities," she said calmly. "Profit is important, but so is purpose. A company's legacy is defined not just by its financial success, but by its positive impact on the world." Her words seemed to resonate. Mr. Taylor smiled approvingly, and several of the other investors nodded in agreement. Jack, however, was fuming. "It's easy to speak when you don't understand the weight of leadership," he said sharply, his voice cutting through the conversation. "Lauren, don't you think you're out of your depth here?" Laura mit his gaze, steady and unflinching. "Perhaps," she replied, her voice measured. "But sometimes those who aren't at the top can see things more clearly than those who are." Mr. Taylor laughed, and the tension at the table eased. Though Jack's frustration was palpable, the evening had veered far off course from what he had planned, and he couldn't hide his discomfort. By the time dessert was served, it was clear that Lauren had made an impression, one that Jack hadn't anticipated or welcomed. When the dinner ended, Jack stormed out without waiting for her. Lauren, however, didn't feel abandoned. She walked out with her head held high, knowing she had spoken her truth and made her mark. The eyes that had judged her at the beginning of the night now held something different: respect, curiosity, even admiration. Back at Jack's residence, the tension boiled over. He called her to his office the moment she arrived, his voice sharp and impatient. "What were you thinking?" he demanded, barely giving her time to sit. "I asked you to come and be discreet, not to become the center of attention." Lauren remained calm, her expression composed. "I only answered the questions that were asked of me," she said. "I expressed my opinion." Jack's eyes narrowed. "You're an assistant. Lauren, you're not paid to have opinions at a business dinner." You overstepped. The words stung, but Lauren refused to let them shake her. "If my presence was such a problem," she said evenly, "why did you bring me?" Jack's voice was cold. "You were supposed to do your job and stay silent. Consider this your last day here. You're fired." Lauren stood, her dignity intact. She had found her voice that night, and no amount of Jack's anger could take that away from her. Without another word, she turned and walked out, leaving behind the man who had failed to see her worth. What she didn't know was that this was only the beginning of a journey that would change her life forever. The morning after the business dinner, Lauren Mitchell stood in her modest apartment, packing her belongings into a single box. The events of the previous night played over in her mind. From the patronizing stares of the investors to Jack Bennett's outburst, his parting words, cold and dismissive, had stung, but they hadn't broken her. If anything, they had strengthened her resolve. She wasn't going to let someone who couldn't see her value dictate her future. She had barely zipped up her bag when her phone buzzed. The screen lit up with an unfamiliar number. Curious, she hesitated before answering. "Hello, this is Lauren," she said cautiously. "Ms. Mitchell, this is Richard Taylor," came the warm voice on the other end. "We met last night at the dinner." Lauren froze for a moment, her mind racing. "Yes, Mr. Taylor. I remember. How can I help you?" "Actually, I was wondering if I could help you," he replied. "Your insights last night were remarkable, and I've been thinking about them ever since. I believe someone with your perspective and composure could do great things in the right environment. If you're open to it, I'd like to offer you a position at my company." Lauren's breath caught in her throat. "A position? At Taylor Ventures?" "Yes," he said. "I'd like you to join my team. It's a management role, one that will challenge you, but also allow you to grow. You have a natural ability to understand people and strategy, and I believe you could make a real impact." The offer was so unexpected, so surreal, that Lauren could hardly process it. For years, she had worked tirelessly in the background, her skills often overlooked or dismissed. And now, here was one of the city's most influential investors offering her not just a job, but a chance to truly shine. I don't know what to say," she stammered. "Thank you. I'd be honored." Richard chuckled. "No need to thank me yet. The hard work is still ahead, but I have no doubt you're up to the task. Let's meet tomorrow to discuss the details." After the call ended, Lauren sat in stunned silence, the weight of the moment sinking in. This wasn't just a job offer. It was an opportunity to redefine her life, to step out of the shadow of people like Jack Bennett and into a world where her voice truly mattered. The following weeks were a whirlwind. On her first day at Taylor Ventures, Lauren stepped into an environment unlike anything she had ever experienced. The office was bright and collaborative, a stark contrast to the rigid atmosphere of Jack's company. Richard personally introduced her to the team, speaking highly of her potential. It was clear that he believed in her, and that belief gave Lauren the confidence to push past her insecurities. Her new role was demanding, requiring her to juggle multiple projects and lead a team of talented but skeptical colleagues. Some questioned why an outsider had been brought in, but Lauren quickly proved herself. She approached every challenge with the same determination and thoughtfulness she had displayed at the dinner, earning the respect of those around her. Richard became both a mentor and an advocate, guiding her through the complexities of the corporate world while encouraging her to trust her instincts. Under his leadership, Lauren discovered skills she hadn't realized she possessed: strategic thinking, negotiation, and the ability to inspire others. For the first time in her career, she felt truly seen and valued. Meanwhile, across town, Jack Bennett was struggling. His once thriving company was faltering, plagued by poor decisions and a rigid focus on profit over people. The very investors he had tried to impress at the dinner were now questioning his leadership, and key partnerships were beginning to unravel. Jack's arrogance, once a shield, was now a liability, leaving him isolated and vulnerable. Lauren heard whispers of his troubles, but chose not to dwell on them. She was too focused on her own growth to look back at the man who had dismissed her. But fate had other plans. Several months into her tenure at Taylor Ventures, Richard approached Lauren with an intriguing proposal. The company was considering acquiring a significant stake in Bennett Enterprises, a move that would give them influence over its operations and potentially save it from collapse. "I want you to lead this project," Richard said. "You know Bennett Enterprises better than anyone here, and I trust your judgment. This is your chance to show what you can do." Lauren hesitated. The thought of stepping back into Jack's world was unsettling, but she also recognized the opportunity it presented. This wasn't about personal revenge. It was about proving her worth and using her skills to make a difference. After a moment's thought, she nodded. "I'll do it." The day Lauren walked into the boardroom of Bennett Enterprises, she felt a wave of emotions: nervousness, determination, and a quiet sense of triumph. The room was filled with familiar faces, including Jack's. When he saw her, his expression shifted from surprise to disbelief. "Lauren," he said, his voice laced with skepticism, "what are you doing here?" She met his gaze calmly. "I'm here representing Taylor Ventures. We've acquired a stake in your company, and I'll be overseeing aspects of its operations." Jack's jaw tightened, and for a moment, he seemed at a loss for words. But Lauren wasn't there to dwell on his discomfort. She had a job to do, and she intended to do it well. Over the next few weeks, Lauren worked tirelessly to assess the company's weaknesses and implement strategies for improvement. She approached the task with professionalism, focusing on collaboration rather than conflict. Despite his initial resistance, Jack couldn't deny the impact of her leadership. Under her guidance, the company began to stabilize, and employees who had once felt undervalued started to see a brighter future. One afternoon, after a particularly productive meeting, Jack approached Lauren in the hallway. His tone was less combative, almost introspective. "Why are you helping save this company?" he asked. "After everything, I wouldn't blame you for walking away." Lauren studied him for a moment before replying. "Because this isn't about you, Jack. It's about the people who depend on this company for their livelihoods. They deserve a chance at something better, and I'm here to make that happen." Her words struck a chord. For the first time, Jack saw Lauren not as the assistant he had dismissed, but as a leader with a clear vision and unshakable integrity. It was a humbling realization, one that forced him to confront his own failures. Lauren, however, didn't dwell on his transformation. She was focused on the future, on building something meaningful and lasting. And as she stood in the heart of a company she had once served in silence, she felt a quiet pride in how far she had come. The next chapter of her journey was just beginning, and she was ready to embrace it fully. In the months following her appointment to oversee Bennett Enterprises operations, Lauren Mitchell worked tirelessly to turn the struggling company around. Her leadership style, built on empathy, collaboration, and a keen understanding of people, began to yield results. Employees who had once felt like cogs in a machine started to see their work valued, and new initiatives brought fresh energy into the company. Lauren's focus wasn't just on stabilizing the finances. It was about building a culture where people could thrive. She introduced programs that prioritized employee well-being, from flexible work schedules to professional development opportunities. The changes were met with cautious optimism at first, but quickly gained momentum as the company's productivity and morale improved. Investors, once skeptical of the company's future, began to regain confidence. Jack Bennett, however, watched these developments with mixed emotions. For years, he had prided himself on being the sole architect of his company's success. Now, he found himself on the sidelines, witnessing someone he had underestimated, steer the company toward a brighter future. It was a humbling experience, one that forced him to confront not only his failures as a leader, but also the arrogance that had driven people away. One evening, Jack lingered in the office long after most employees had gone home. The once bustling workspace was quiet, save for the faint hum of fluorescent lights. Lauren was still at her desk, reviewing a presentation for an upcoming investor meeting. Jack hesitated before approaching her, his usual confidence replaced by uncertainty. "Lauren," he began, his voice softer than she'd ever heard it. "Can we talk?" She looked up, surprised by the vulnerability in his tone. "Of course," she said, gesturing for him to sit. Jack took a seat across from her, running a hand through his hair as he searched for the right words. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, that this isn't about me, but about the people who depend on this company. You were right. I've spent so much time chasing profits that I forgot what really matters." Lauren listened silently, her expression unreadable. Jack continued, his voice laced with regret. "I want to change. I don't know if I can fix everything I've done wrong, but I want to try. Will you help me?" It wasn't an easy question for Lauren to answer. Jack had underestimated her, dismissed her, and treated her as though her voice didn't matter. But she also saw sincerity in his eyes, a genuine desire to grow. After a moment, she nodded. "Change isn't easy, Jack," she said. "It takes time, consistency, and humility. If you're willing to put in the effort, I'll do what I can to guide you." Over the next several weeks, Jack began taking small but meaningful steps toward transformation. He attended meetings not to dominate the conversation, but to listen. He spent time on the factory floor, talking to employees and learning about their experiences. He sought Lauren's advice on decisions, valuing her perspective in ways he never had before. Slowly but surely, he started to rebuild the trust he had lost. One of the most significant moments came during a community outreach event that Lauren had organized. The company was sponsoring a program to provide skills training for underprivileged youth, and Jack had volunteered to help. As he worked alongside Lauren to set up the event, he noticed a young man hesitating near the entrance. The teenager eventually approached Jack, his voice tentative. "Mr. Bennett," the young man said, "I just wanted to thank you. This program is giving me a chance I never thought I'd have." Jack was deeply moved. For the first time, he saw the tangible impact of what his company could achieve when it prioritized people over profits. Later that evening, as he and Lauren packed up after the event, he turned to her with a newfound sense of purpose. "You were right," he admitted. "It's about more than just numbers. It's about giving back, about making a difference." Lauren smiled, her eyes soft with approval. "What matters is that you see it now, Jack, and that you're willing to do something about it." As Jack continued to evolve, his partnership with Lauren deepened. No longer her superior, he became her collaborator, working alongside her to ensure the company thrived. Together, they spearheaded initiatives that not only improved financial performance, but also transformed the company's culture. They emphasized transparency, inclusivity, and social responsibility, setting a new standard for what leadership could look like. Their efforts didn't go unnoticed. During a major company event, Lauren was invited to deliver a keynote speech. Standing on the stage, she spoke passionately about the importance of ethical leadership, the value of people, and the power of businesses to create positive change. Her words resonated deeply with the audience, earning her a standing ovation. Jack stood at the back of the room, watching with a mix of pride and humility. When Lauren stepped off the stage, he approached her, his demeanor more respectful than she had ever seen. "Lauren," he said, "your speech was incredible. You've done amazing things here." "Thank you, Jack," she replied. "It hasn't been easy, but it's been worth it. I believe that even the most broken systems can change if the people within them are willing to change too." Jack nodded, her words striking a chord. "I'm trying," he said. "I know I still have a long way to go, but seeing what you've accomplished makes me want to be better." "Change isn't about perfection," Lauren said. "It's about consistency. And if you're willing to put in the effort, there's always a chance for redemption." In the months that followed, Jack continued to grow, earning back the respect of his employees and peers. He made mistakes along the way, but each misstep became a lesson, one that he faced with humility and a commitment to do better. Under his and Lauren's leadership, the company flourished, becoming a model of how businesses could balance success with purpose. For Lauren, the journey had been transformative in ways she couldn't have imagined. She had gone from being an overlooked assistant to a respected leader, proving that resilience, courage, and empathy could create lasting change. And for Jack, the experience had reshaped his understanding of leadership, showing him that true success wasn't about commanding from the top, but uplifting those around him. Their partnership, built on mutual respect and a shared vision, became a testament to the power of second chances. Together, they not only rebuilt a company, but also created a legacy of compassion, integrity, and hope, one that would inspire others for years to come. Lauren's journey demonstrates the importance of courage, self-respect, and standing firm in your convictions. By refusing to stay silent and accepting challenges with grace, she proved that leadership is not about title or position, but about vision, integrity, and empathy. Her rise from an overlooked assistant to a transformative leader reminds us that true strength comes from knowing your worth and using it to create positive change for others. Jack's transformation highlights the power of humility and the willingness to change. His journey from an arrogant, profit-driven leader to a compassionate, collaborative figure shows that redemption is possible when we choose to prioritize people over power. Jack's story is a testament to the idea that true leadership is not about control, but about listening, learning, and uplifting those around you. Richard's role underscores the value of recognizing and nurturing potential in others. His willingness to take a chance on Lauren and guide her into leadership demonstrates the importance of mentorship and the ripple effect of belief and opportunity. His actions show that investing in others can lead to transformative outcomes, not just for individuals, but for entire organizations. This story teaches us that everyone has the potential to lead and inspire, no matter their starting point. It reminds us to believe in ourselves, to seek out opportunities for growth, and to embrace second chances, both for ourselves and others. Above all, it emphasizes the importance of empathy, collaboration, and the courage to challenge outdated ways of thinking to create a brighter, more inclusive future. Thank you for joining us on Empathy Stories. We hope Lauren's inspiring rise and Jack's redemption remind you of the potential within all of us to grow, change, and create positive impact. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your reflections. Remember, it's never too late to embrace empathy and transformation in our own lives. Until next time, stay kind and keep spreading hope.